Okay, now we're back. And this is part 2. And this is the birth of creation. That's the name of this. And we're in the book of Genesis, and we're reading from the New King James, the New King James Bible. And we're on verse 20 of the first chapter of Genesis. And then God said, "Let the waters abound with the abundance of living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth across the face of the firmament of heaven." So God created great sea creatures, and every living thing that moves, with which the waters abounded, according to their kind, and every winged bird according to its kind. And God saw that it was good, and God blessed them, saying, "Be fruitful and multiply, and so fill the waters and the seas, and let the birds multiply on the earth." So the evening and the morning were the 5th day. Okay, verse 24. Then God said, "Let the earth bring forth the living creatures according to its kind, cattle and creeping thing and beast of the earth, each according to its kind." And it was so. And God made the beast of the earth according to its kind, cattle according to its kind, and everything that creeps upon the earth according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, "Let us make man in our image, according to our likeness. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth." So God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him, male and female he created them. Then God blessed them, and God said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves upon the earth." Okay, we can see that God is speaking these things into existence, and will be manifested on the third. Will be manifested on the 3rd day, because nothing has been planted or anything, because man has to plant the seeds and has to tend the garden. So man is not being created here. He has said, "Let us make man in our image, and make them in our image," but they have not been created at this time. He is speaking them into existence by faith. So we'll see that here in just a minute when we get to chapter 2 of Genesis. "And let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves on the earth." The only way man can have dominion over all these things is man is first and foremost in this scenario. The beast could not come before man, because man has to tend to the beast, man has to tend to the garden, man has to do all these things, and there's no man to do all these things. And God is not creating this for himself. He is creating this for the man Adam, who is to be created, who is to be formed and created. So none of this has happened yet. The only thing that has happened in the first chapter of Genesis is the speaking of it, and the manifestation is yet to come. And God said, "See, I've given you every herb that yields seed, which is on the face of all the earth, and every tree whose fruit yields seed to you, and it shall be for food. Also to every beast of the earth, to every bird of the air, and to everything that creeps on the earth, in which there is life. I have given every green herb for food." And it was so. Then God saw everything that he had made, and indeed it was very good. So the evening and the morning were the 6th day. Now, this if this was the manifestation of the Word here in the sixth day, we would have man made last, and everything would be created, and the man would be the last thing made. But keep in mind, this is words of faith being spoke. Faith is not instantaneous. It's a process which comes to pass, and you have to keep your faith for it to come to pass. So here, but God is faith. So what God speaks will happen, will come into existence, and you will see it, and as we see it, and we see our own faith manifested in this same way. Okay, now we go into chapter 2 of Genesis, and here is where the manifestation of faith comes in. Okay, the Garden of Eden, chapter 2. Thus the heavens and the earth and all the host of them were finished, and on the seventh day God ended his work which he had done. And he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had done. Then God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because in it he had rested from all his work which he had created and made. So God is resting from all his work. Everything is done, has been spoken, and it's done. So now comes the manifestation. This is the history of the heavens and the earth when they were created, in the day that the Lord God made the earth and the heavens, before any plant, keep this in mind, before any plant of the field was in the earth, and before any herb of the field had grown, for the Lord God had not caused it to rain and on the earth, and there was no man to till the ground. So Adam had not been created yet, and there was no one to plant the herbs and of the field, and trees, and none of these things. For the Lord God had not caused it to rain on the earth, and there was no man to till the ground. But a mist went up from the earth and watered the whole face of the ground. And the Lord God formed the man of the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul, or a living being. Alright, this is when Adam was created. And according to Genesis 1, when the earth came forth, this is when the earth was bare. This was when the earth had first been born. So this is when Adam had to be created on the third day, so that he could be the one to plant the seeds and to reap the harvest. And he was not created on the sixth day, as most people assume that he is. The Bible points that man was created on the third day when the earth was born. After the earth was born, delivered, then man was created to till the ground, to have dominion over the earth. Okay, the Lord God, life in God's garden. The Lord God planted a garden eastward in Eden, and there he put the man whom he had formed. And out of the ground the Lord God made every tree grow that is pleasant to the sight, and good for food. The tree of life was also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Now a river went out of Eden to water the garden, and from there it parted and became 4 river heads. The name of the first is Pishon, and it is one of which skirts the whole land of Havilah, where there is gold, and the gold of the land is good. Bdellium and onyx stone are there. The name of the second river is Gihon. It is one which goes around the whole land of Cush. The land of the third river is Hiddekel. It is the one which goes toward the east of Assyria. The fourth river is Euphrates. Okay. Now these rivers in this area does not exist today as it had existed here, because this is not this where Adam was created, or where the Garden of Eden was not on this mortal earth. The Garden of Eden was on the new earth, the millennial earth, where the millennial reign will take place when Christ comes back, and when the Jews, at the end of the Jews' tribulation. Okay. Then God put man in a garden to tend and keep it. And the Lord God commanded the man, saying, Of every tree of the garden you may freely eat, but of the tree of knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat. For in the day that you eat of it, you shall surely die. And the Lord God said, It is not good that man should be alone. I will make him a helper comparable to him. Out of the ground the Lord God formed every beast of the field and every bird of the air, and brought them to Adam, to see what he would call them. And whatever Adam called each living creature, that was its name. So Adam gave names to all the cattle and the birds of the air, and to every beast of the field. But for Adam there was not found a helper comparable to him. And the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall on Adam, and he slept. And he took one of his ribs, and closed up the flesh of it in its place. Then the rib which the Lord God had taken from the man, he made into a woman, and he brought her to the man. Okay. This is the first surgery ever completed on the earth, and that's when Adam put Adam under in a deep sleep. Put him under and took his rib, and then closed back the wound, and from his rib he put and made into part of the woman. So it could be said, she is now bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. Okay. Now, regardless of what people think and have said, a man does not have one less bone than the woman. Man has 24 bones, rib bones, and women have 24 rib bones. They have 12 on each side, and so just because God took one of Adam's ribs don't mean that we're all born with one less rib. That's not the way it works. So that's just a rumor or false thing that people have got started at one time, but it's not true. Okay, and Adam said, This is bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man. Therefore a man shall leave his father and his mother, and be joined to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. And they were both naked, the man and his wife, and were not ashamed. Okay. Now Adam and Eve had no mother. God is their father. So, but this saying, Moses is writing this down, but he's saying that in the law, what the law says. In the law it says, a father, when a person marries, he's to leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and they two shall become one. So that's what he is saying here, that a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. Okay. And they were both naked. Okay, now I'm going to have to cut it off here, and then we're going to pick up on part 3. God bless you. See you in part 3. Thank you.